Have you ever wondered why your plans appear to be failing? Yes, you took out your time to define your end goal. You took out your time to plan. You took out your time to strategize. You made budget for all of the things you are going to need. You even took time to maybe pray about it for a while, but things did not work out the way you expected it. Have you ever noticed this strange paradox of life that the same place that once felt like a blessing suddenly becomes a limitation? In 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 1, the sons of the prophet went to their master Elisha and they said to him, Master, the place where we are is too small for us. Pause and think of that statement. Now, the place where they said was too small for them at one point or the other was a long awaited provision. That place was all they needed. That place was all they ever wanted. That place was too big to accommodate them. But that place that used to be too big to accommodate them had now become too small. Listen to me, growth will always make the comfort of yesterday to feel like a constraint, like a limitation today. All the same, growth is not optional. I need to tell you that I wish I could say that over and over again, that growth is not optional. Now, where these men were complaining that was too straight for them was not initially too straight, was not initially too small. It was a place that used to be very big, but they had outgrown the place. And what does that tell you? That growth will stretch your capacity. Growth will disrupt your comfort. Growth will challenge your routines. Because of growth, what used to fit will no longer continue. That place that used to feel very comfortable, that was more than enough, that you are okay with, that place that used to fit you will no longer be able to contain you, courtesy of growth. Because of growth, the job that once excited you, that was like, oh, what you ever dreamt of, will become restrictive. Because of growth, that job will become limiting. Because of growth, the circle that once sustained you will now begin to appear as a limitation. If you refuse to grow, the challenge is that you are going to suffocate in yesterday's blessing. If you refuse to grow, you are going to suffocate yourself in the blessings of yesterday. Even Abraham, the father of faith, at one point, he had to leave his father's house and go to a place where he can grow. And that place was in a strange land. He had to leave Tehran at a point in time. Just as Moses did not stay forever in Midian. All of these cases indicate growth. Sometimes people fail not because they lack opportunity, but because they are still trying to live in a season they have outgrown. And one of the reasons, one of the things that God does when He answers your prayer is that He will give you an opportunity to grow. Now, that opportunity to grow may appear to be a challenge, may appear to be, oh, something that you cannot be able to handle. But that is your opportunity to grow. Don't throw it away. So don't try to throw away opportunities because it's beyond your imagination. No. So don't try to live in a season you have outgrown. Don't do that. If you try to still restrict yourself in the season that you have outgrown, you are only sabotaging yourself. So from that Bible text, 2 Kings chapter 6, from verses 1 to 5, there are lessons that we can learn from them. And those lessons that we can learn from them will be the basis of my discussion today. So number one thing that you can learn from them is that these sons of the prophet, they knew that they had outgrown something. So you need to know what you have outgrown, and don't try to blend in. Identify that, oh, you have gotten to a point in life where you have outgrown some things. Don't try to force yourself back. So as a person, you may have outgrown some circles. As a person, you may have outgrown some habit. As a person, you may have outgrown some mindset. Now, for people who don't understand, you would be seeing you as somebody who is proud. They'll be seeing you as somebody who is still full of himself. They'll be seeing you as somebody who is intolerant, but you know you have outgrown those things. It is not in your place in trying to explain to people because people may not readily understand. You are the one that know where you are. You are the one that know that what the people seems to be celebrating now used to be your forte, used to be your comfort zone, but you have outgrown it. So don't try to blend in all because you want to please the people. Don't try to blend in all because you don't want to appear too pompous. Don't try to blend in because you want to be in the good book of the people. Know what you have outgrown and don't blend in. The second thing that can be learned from the life of these sons of the prophet is that having known what they've outgrown, number two, they took responsibility for their growth. They did not outsource their growth. And how do I know this? They made two statements indicating that they were ready to take responsibility for their growth. If you read that Second Kings chapter 6, verse 1, verse 2, they said to themselves, let us go to Jordan. So they knew that, oh, they had to grow. But they also knew that where they were, that environment does not have the resources, does not have the equipment to support their growth. They knew where the equipment for their growth can be sourced, that it was Jordan in their own case, and they decided to go there. They knew that their present location does not have what they needed. They identified the location of where what they needed was, and they decided to go there. You too may need to initiate growth. You too may need to initiate movement to where you are going to grow. Now, people may not understand you. They may not understand why you want to move. They may not understand why you are changing some things. But you are the one that knows that, oh, I need to grow. And the instrument for my growth is not here. I need to what? I need to make movement. So growth will require you to make movement in one way or the other. For some, it may be a physical movement. For some, it may be a geographic movement. For some, it may be a change in your mindset. For some, it may be a change in your belief system. For some, it may be a change in your perception. For some, it may be a change in your methodology, in your thinking pattern, in the way you do things. But what I need you to understand, that growth will require movement from one thing, from one place, from one style, from one approach to the other. And that was what these men exhibited by saying, let us go to Jordan. The second statement they made, indicative of them taking responsibility for their growth, was they said, let every man take a beam. In other words, yes, we want to grow, but in this effort to grow, it is going to be a collective effort. Nobody is going to be idle. Nobody is going to outsource their destiny. Everyone has to carry a beam. Now, this is where many people fail. They want collective success, but they don't want to put in personal effort. They want expansion without movement. They want result, but they don't want to get engaged in the responsibility that will back that result. Take a look at the book of Nehemiah. In the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem, Nehemiah did not build alone. There were people that were with him. Everyone built their own section of the wall. In other words, every man took his beam. You need to take your beam because that beam is indicative of your assignment. Nobody will do that for you. Yes, people can offer to help you, can offer to give assistance, but ultimately you are the one that will take the beam. You are the one that will take the beam. You are the one that will do what needs to be done for your growth to be actualized. So they knew they had to go to Jordan, they knew they had to take a beam. The third thing that can be learned from the life of these young men was that as they were about to move, one of them said to Elisha, please be content to come with us. In other words, they asked for divine presence. And this part is where the supernatural was factored in into the equation. Yes, they had the vision of where they were going. They had the tools they needed. They had the manpower. They had enough of themselves. They even had the strategy, but they needed God in their plan. And that's because a plan without God may succeed, but that success will be temporary. Because as they continued in their quest for growth, if you read that Second Kings chapter 6, and if you read downward, you observe that as everybody was cutting, they had their ass head. Suddenly, one of the ass head fell into water. And the person who was using that ass head cried, Master, it was borrowed. So you can imagine that even with Elisha, a representative of God with them, there could still be a loss. There could still be an attempt by the enemy to cause a loss. A challenge still arose. Now imagine for a minute that Elisha was not with them. Imagine for a minute that what they did not secure divine presence. All their effort, all their strategy, all the manpower to grow would have been aborted instantly. Remember that the ass head was borrowed. So look at the shame, look at the embarrassment they will have to face in explaining to the one who lent them. Oh, we are sorry, we apologize. Oh, the ass head you gave us was lost. What an excuse. So apart from the fact that they will be embarrassed in trying to grow, everybody wants to grow, but nobody wants to be embarrassed. So they will suffer embarrassment, they will suffer shame, they will suffer ridicule. And the most annoying part is that all the effort they have put in will just what? Will just come to a naught. And once the effort comes to a naught, they will be forced to return to status quo, to go and begin to live in the place that they knew was too narrow for them. But they were going to be forced to live there because the instrument for expansion was lost. But the good news was that they had divine presence. And even though there was a challenge, the man of God came to their rescue and the ass head floated. What I'm trying to tell you is that you need divine presence. Look at Israel, a mighty nation and a beloved nation of God. Why do you think they were completely overrun by a smaller nation like Ai? It was because there was no divine presence. Because if divine presence was there, they would have known that somebody had compromised all this while. This alone should tell you that in addition to having all your resources in place, the God factor is the real deal. You may have the tools, you may have the manpower, you have the strategy, you have the resources, but the God factor is the constant you need. Get the God factor today. He is the only reason why your plans will not fail. Yes, get other factors, but know that the divine presence is important. Thank you for your time and God bless you.